will start on light and dark, because there's a lot of emphasis on, oh, you need more and more sunlight because it has all these healing benefits. But the way biology works, everything's sort of paired, that, darkness is really important as well, because first of all, when it's dark, we make more melatonin, and melatonin is really important, not just for sleeping, but for things like regulating other hormones, healing the mitochondria, autophagy, which sort of, it sounds a bit complicated, but it sort of will just say taking out the trash in the cells. And that's something that fasting also and keto diets will increase the amount of autophagy, because you also mentioned scarcity as well. So when it comes to winter, it can be a really good time to optimize healing, because with it being darker, it does tend to be people more likely to go to bed a bit earlier, and we can really hone in on practicing our evening routines, because when it's summer, sometimes in the UK it can be light until 10 o'clock at night, and people want to have barbecues and parties and things like that, and it's not, once you're in that mindset, it's sort of harder to sleep. So first of all, with the dark, not to fear it. And I always I can't say I like winter more than summer. I just do different things because there's different things in nature available. Secondly, with the darkness, there also comes the cold, and I think cold thermogenesis is something people in northern latitudes, it's really important to do, because the cold, first of all, from a mental health perspective, it helps us make more neurotransmitters like dopamine and noradrenaline. And that's the same in the morning light, the UV light, the UVA. There's always UVA light around all year round. So going out in the morning, after about an hour after sunrise, that's still going to make your neurotransmitters for the daytime. And then if we add cold thermogenesis onto that, then we can boost the neurotransmitters more, because obviously winter depression and SAD is something that people complain about. Whereas SAD is a lot of the time people trying to make an artificial summer and winter by having the heating on too high, eating sort of stodgy carbohydrate laden food, where that's not the right kind of food, and sitting inside too much under artificial light. So your brain thinks it's summer again, and having 2 summers is actually really bad for biology. It's a really good way to age quicker. So that's kind of something you have to be mindful of, is to make sure that if you live somewhere where there is a specific difference in seasons, you need to experience this seasonality and to embrace the cold. The other important thing that cold does is it's very good for insulin sensitivity and leptin sensitivity. So the brown fat that we make when we expose ourselves to cold, the brown adipose tissue, or the BAT, that's sort of Mother Nature's antidote to diabetes. So this is why sitting inside with a thermostat too high, so we're not even thinking about blue light or the wrong food, just being warm all the time is adding to this sort of diabetes problem. So being able to do cold exposure, and it doesn't even have to mean you have to buy some kind of cold plunge. You can wear less clothes, turn the heating down. You can go for walks outside, and because the brown fat's here and on our upper back, so exposing your skin to the cold air, that's sort of what I would say level 1. Then you can do things like, once you've had a shower or a bath, rather than just jumping and cuddling up in your towel, you can let yourself dry in the cold air. And that's another way to do cold thermogenesis. So that would be level 1 as well. I just go through things with levels, because sometimes for people it can be overwhelming if they've never heard any of this, and they think, oh no, cold, I must go out and swim in a lake or the sea in December. So that would be like level 20. But so that's the first sort of beginning of doing, how do I do cold thermogenesis in the winter. In certain places like Canada, the UK, you can run a bath and leave it overnight and then get in it the next morning, and it's going to be cold, and then you can sort of immerse yourself, because as soon as you start to get into water and make yourself cold, that's totally different to letting the air cool you. So the water's always better. Then, because being cold is sort of going to be metabolically stimulating, it's another way to sort of get, not like a workout, but it's a metabolic stimulus in the winter, because some people get very sort of down and they need something to pep them up a bit. So using cold is a good way to sort of wake yourself up in a natural way without having sort of 5 coffees and things like that. So there's lots of ways we can use the cold in winter. And the other thing about the body is, I think sometimes people always ask me, well, what temperature should I make it? And sometimes you want to make it the temperature in which it is naturally in your environment. So say doing a sort of 32 Fahrenheit or 2 degrees C cold plunge in Costa Rica is very unnatural because it's a very warm place. Whereas doing something like super cold like that in Canada or Iceland or Norway, it's kind of the people who live there and the environment there is very, very cold. But on the other hand, we have to treat cold thermogenesis like exercise, and people wouldn't suddenly just do an hour of CrossFit if they haven't exercised for 5 years. So that's why I mentioned there's lots of gateways into doing cold thermogenesis, and you don't want to, shock your body or overdo it. Then the other important thing about cold thermogenesis is it's very important as anti-inflammatory, because some people tell me they ache more in the winter, and also it's as long as you don't go crazy with it, it can be very helpful for immunity as well. So there's a huge amount of cold thermogenesis we can do, because on a sort of much deeper biological level, when we expose ourselves to the cold, we make UV light inside ourselves, so we can make melanin and get the benefits of sunlight, but from the light we made from our cells. So it's almost like Mother Nature gave us a different tool in winter. If there's not as much sun in these northern latitudes, then we can make our own light